We talked about value exchange. You have to understand what you are bringing to the table so you get a mutual value exchange that's the net positive for the partnership. And once you lock on that, do deep enablement internally, enablement with the cloud provider, and have a lot of success in the field with it.
Welcome to Unlock Cloud Go-to-Market, the series where hosts Erin and Patrick Riley share the essential stages of the Cloud GTM Maturity Model to start, optimize, and grow your company's revenue through the cloud. They've helped countless ISVs tackle the ins and outs of their Cloud GTM motion. And in each episode, they're sharing those success stories from the people who have put them into place. Because ultimately, this way of thinking is the future, and the future is now.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Unlock Cloud Go-to-Market. This week, we've invited Shane Wilson from Veritas to join us. He is the head of Global Cloud Go-to-Market, Business Development, and Alliances. And I've had the opportunity to work with Shane for the last 6 years when he first started out at Rubrik, and now continuing to help support Shane and the efforts that he's doing over at Veritas. You don't want to miss this episode. I love how he is partnering with his internal team members to really drive cloud go-to-market and optimize the impact that cloud go-to-market has inside of Veritas. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Unlock Cloud Go-to-Market. This week on our episode, we have Shane Wilson from Veritas, formerly at Rubrik. I love the story you have to share today. I've known you for a while, been working with you for a long time. Excited for you to share your story, Shane.
Hey, Erin, thanks so much for having me here. It's been quite a journey, and yeah, excited to share all the cloud go-to-market tips and tricks with your audience. So yeah, appreciate the opportunity.
I thought we'd just get started with giving the audience a little bit of an overview of your professional career.
I've been leading cloud go-to-market, cloud biz dev, and alliances function for the better part of 11 or 12 years now at 3 different companies. But I came up in sales earlier in my career, so tech sales with EMC, and but before it was Dell, and enterprise and commercial and different segments. And when I moved to Seattle, I started trying to sell to Amazon and AWS. For me, that was actually a wake-up point in time. It was at NetApp at this time. They had less interest in buying a bunch of NetApp and more interest in partnering together to do NetApp in the cloud and marketplace. And, this thing that's turned into cloud go-to-market some 10 plus years later. And so, yeah, it's been a fun ride. So for the last 11 or so years, I've been doing this partnership alliances work with the public clouds. And it's been great. The last 8 or so years, I've really pivoted that focus to not just what a great partnership looks like and how you run great global alliances, but to, hey, how you actually drive ARR and revenue through a cloud go-to-market. And so that's, of course, brings us to the sweet spot of Tackle and Core Plus and really this cloud go-to-market engine, which frankly is the largest lever for driving ARR in the world right now, is both ISVs and established companies, that startups and larger companies, right? Think about how they grow their revenue with the cloud.
And I remember when I signed with Rubrik. Rubrik hired me to help them kickstart their go-to-market strategy with Microsoft. Ranjit was new to the organization. He signed up Rubrik as a Microsoft partner, and then he was like, now what? And so Microsoft said, call Erin Feiger. She can help you with your Microsoft strategy. So I start helping him set up Partner Center and let's start figuring out what our first co-sell deals are.
The Rubrik stories, there was a good one. I'm happy to talk about that. That was our first taste of really looking at, hey, how do we make this a meaningful sales impact? This being a partnership with Microsoft, and that has turned into Amazon and others as well. But initially, at this point in time, 2017, it was, hey, how do we make something meaningful happen with Microsoft that can, help us sell more product, help us reach more customers, help us have a stronger route to market. And so we started thinking about that and working on it with you and a small team at Core Plus.
Yes, we've come a long way since then. One of the first things I did when joining Tackle was work with Patrick and a few other folks inside the company to really document this experience into a maturity model.
So for those of you new to this concept and anybody new listening to the podcast, Tackle has what we call our cloud go-to-market maturity model. And essentially imagine this as a journey. And so after evaluating hundreds of ISVs and where they are in their journey, into implementing cloud go-to-market as a true strategy or a true channel within their organization. Now, we put together the model that shows you how you progress through each of the stages. So think about it like climbing a ladder. And so we start at the bottom, establishing the foundation. We need a good footing on that ladder, or we're going to fall over when we get to the top. And so we go through the stages of establishing foundation, building adoption, driving adoption. We're near the top, and then scaling adoption, which is where we're kind of fully embedded as a channel within our company from cloud go-to-market's perspective. And we're really maximizing automation and speed. So following this model, we can systematically enhance our go-to-market strategy and really ensure that we're maximizing our time to value and our company's success. So we're going to talk about that theme as we go through this here with Shane today. So let's kind of start out with the establishing foundation phase. And Erin, maybe you can tee us up with Shane and how do we set that foundation right through his experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I loved our conversation that we had, in preparation for the podcast. And you were talking about really that this is up leveling a company's route to market. You're now at Veritas and you're like, okay, I'm going to do this again. And I'm going to take all these great lessons that I've learned from Rubric. I've got, this recipe. I want to repeat it. I want to see what works. How do I tweak it? How do I continue to mature and evolve it? So you have this North Star at Veritas, which is selling on the marketplace. Just because you want to sell and sell more through the marketplace, it doesn't just happen overnight. What is your point of view on how to achieve this goal of selling more through the marketplace?
It's interesting because everyone wants to grow ARR. Everyone knows that there's massive commits happening out there between Amazon, Microsoft, Google. This is like money that is approved to be spent. And so, it's no secret. Everyone's racing toward, hey, how can I tap into some of that money? But to your point, it's not that simple, right? You actually have to start with a fundamental go-to-market and route to market that makes sense for your business. You've established this at a startup, i.e. Rubric, right? And then a larger established company like Veritas as well. And you have to think about what a win is for your company first, right? And by that, I mean, you have to understand what your route to market is and the components of it. So you might have a large direct sales force. You might be getting leads from, say, marketing and system integrators, or you might be having a two-tier channel model with distribution in it still. There's variety in companies' go-to-markets, and how they approach their own route to market is super important to anchor on first, because the goal isn't just selling through the marketplace. The goal is actually to increase sales velocity, decrease cost per sale, right? Increase deal size, fundamentally modernize and make a world-class route to market for your own company, leveraging the cloud go-to-market. And so there's some science in that. There's some art in it. I'm happy to go through it. The net is that you got to understand, what's my channel model look like? What's my system integrator model look like? What's my direct sale model look like? How are they all compensated? What's that current flow? How's it working? And how can we make it better? And really have a deep understanding of that with Interlock, importantly, across all the line of business leaders of your company, to go and add this secret sauce of cloud go-to-market and marketplace to the mix to really up level the game and create a bunch of new logos and wins and drive ARR through the model. Internal anchoring on your route to market and making it better, that's where you start.
And that's an important key because, yes, going to market with the clouds and cloud go to market is an additional route to market for your organization. But just because it's an additional route to market doesn't mean it should be different than the way you are selling and how you are trying to unlock your ARR and your ARR growth. So it needs to be integrated into the way you do business and how you guys think about going to market and your market space and your customers and your channel, but it is its own thing as well. So I think that's where a lot of times I see partners not make that connection of like, oh, we have to integrate this into how we do business as another route. So I still have to treat this thing individually and separate, but also integrate into the way we do business so that it doesn't feel like this thing that's been bolted on and it's this extra weird motion that we're doing, right?
Yeah, but no business has cycles for a completely separate sidecar in their route to market. You have to make the whole motorcycle faster and better in the first place. And so we want 1 + 1 = 10. We already have 1 + 1 = 2 with whatever the current route to market is, probably direct and some sort of combination of SI and channel, right? We want to amplify all that to make it 10 with the cloud. It's the secret sauce that's going to up level your route to market. And a lot of it's additive, right? So there is definitely ARR growth with it as well.
Okay. So you're going to go create a world-class route to market. What's the first thing you look to really unlock this go-to-market motion?
The first thing you got to understand is product market fit. And so you got to put a little bit of your PM hat on, if you will. Think about, hey, how does my product affect folks that are trying to move to cloud or use cloud? Migrating to cloud has been a theme that's important for Amazon and Microsoft forever. But increasingly, the last couple of years, it's not just about migrating to the cloud as its destination. It's like the cloud is where business is done, period, right? So when you think about your products, it's like, hey, how can my product drive cloud consumption? How does it fit in this ecosystem that the cloud sellers care about? Whether that's a migration story, whether that's just, hey, a use case in the cloud story, whatever the case is, there's a million different business use cases around the cloud. You just have to understand, hey, what's my company's core value to the cloud at a, say, brand and value prop level? And then at a click below that, it's important to go in and understand some of the math on how the actual consumption and I would say cloud consumption works, because it's important that you know how much you matter to the cloud. Are you just a bit of a brand value, or are you actually driving meaningful consumption?
One of the things that has been part of Rubrik's success is their ability to tie themselves to that consumption. And now you're at Veritas and you're thinking about, I need to understand my product market fit. I need to understand our consumption story and I need to know the numbers behind that story. But I also need to tie myself so that the clouds know, oh, it's Rubrik, oh, it's Veritas that is driving this consumption.
Such a key point, because it's not enough to have a great value prop or have just a great SaaS that happens to run on Amazon or happens to run on Microsoft or Google, right? All those things are core MVP requirements to play the game, but they're not what makes you successful. So out of the gate, you have to have product market fit. You have to have a SaaS running. You got to be driving consumption, but it's not enough. You actually have to drive scale and a meaningful impact in consumption that's measurable over a long period of time. And so this is where co-sell really becomes a thing, and like all the value that Core Plus historically had and now Tackle with co-sell managed services comes in. If you don't have your own route to market locked in where you're at scale, driving as much of your install base toward the cloud and having that be recognized actually as consumption when that happens, well, then you're missing 80% of the trick that is engaging together. Because if you don't do that, then you don't show up from a brand perspective and the dashboards that matter for all the cloud sellers. And ultimately, you'll be having a lot of first conversations with the sellers at Amazon or Microsoft for years, when you should be having first conversations once. And then you've got this scalable system that is actually driving consumption in a measurable way with the cloud providers. And so you're having that second and third conversation and meaningful sales interactions, after a handful of months. But it does take time and repetition and commitment. And so this co-sell motion with cloud go-to-market is super foundational, both to get started and then also, of course, to scale the thing for success over time.
That establishing foundation phase of laying all this groundwork, knowing your consumption story, making sure you have product market fit, like those are key pillars we keep hearing. And obviously you saw a ton of success doing that. And as you mentioned scale, and you're talking about how do we look at now framing ourselves up to be scalable. What did you look at, Rubrik, and what are you looking at now at Veritas to help you evaluate, hey, we know we've got a good foundation now, then we're moving on to the next phase. We need to look at scale. Like, what does that look like for you all? And what do you look at next? If I'm an ISV listening to this and I'm just laying my foundation, how do I know when it's time to start to scale? Like, what to you is the key triggers to look for on where we want to go next?
Yeah, when you think about scale, there's a couple components. One is net impact you can have to the cloud in terms of consumption. So what's the dollar amount that I'm going to drive globally, right, through our partnership and joint sales? Another one is volume. Like how much volume do I as an ISV have today? If I'm a startup, and I think of Rupert when we were just getting going, it was 120 mil company. It was not a large company by any means, but nevertheless, there was like volume of transactions that we could start to build a foundation on. So you got to look at like how much volume can I bring to the table if I actually connected my current route to market in with the clouds? what does that volume look like globally? So knowing that the Americas is typically the strongest, followed by UK and Europe and APJ, right? You got to look globally and understand, hey, what's the volume of transactions that I think I could drive? And beyond the volume of transactions, what's the actual amount of cloud revenue that I think I could drive? And you have to understand like how that fits in again with the product market fit. Back to that to say, hey, I'm going to be driving, 150 mil of product A, right? That could actually have a drag of an additional 40 mil of cloud consumption with it. So you got to do some of that math across the total impact of consumption as well as volume. If you've got a product market fit and you've got scale in terms of, sales reps in the field, volume of deals happening, there's a real opportunity to go and swing a bigger bat with the clouds to actually have a real meaningful go to market around it. And so there's different strategies you can take when you're coming up as an ISV to kind of get your wins in pockets and verticals where you have success. And then when you achieve scale, you can really fire on all cylinders. And you can start talking like going, picking your top 5 verticals and picking your regions to really double down in on events and things. I had a great leader at Rubrik, actually, who talked about value exchange. You have to understand what you are bringing to the table so you get a mutual value exchange that's net positive for the partnership. And once you lock on that, do deep enablement internally, enablement with the cloud provider, and have a lot of success in the field with it.
I remember like at Rubrik, that was like one of our strategies, and how we got Microsoft's attention so quickly was we had a volume of business to bring. We had a significant amount of customers that we wanted to align with Microsoft on. And so we put all of those customers into co-sell, and we just started having like tons and tons of who we are, what we do conversations. And by the end of that first year of co-selling with Microsoft, we were in the top 10, not maybe even like the top 5, if my memory serves me right, of like ISVs co-selling with Microsoft. And that really helped elevate Rubrik to the next level inside their partnership to say, okay, now how can we continue to invest more in Rubrik, and Rubrik wanting to invest more in the Microsoft partnership as well.
That was a fun example where, hey, good product market fit, good hungry sales force, and flexibility in route to market that allowed a pivot and attach to this cloud go to market. And we had a ton of success on it. So I think that's a really good sort of coming up story for ISVs that are thinking about it. And then, yeah, with Veritas, it's been an even stronger, acceleration than we had at Rubrik, because with Veritas, it's an established larger company, more scale globally, right? And large customers. And on top of that, like there's such a strong both new business and renewal business motion. We can talk more about this if it's interesting, but like there's definitely motions you can create for your renewal business and for new business, both which drive cloud consumption and both with, are eligible for marketplace and both have a lot of value exchange around them for ARR.
Well, I think that is interesting because, like, at Rubrik, it was a startup. You're just getting everything started. We even thought about, like, how do we build the GUID into the Rubrik so that every time Rubrik lit up inside someone's, cloud environment, it talked back and said, hey, we're Rubrik. We're the ones driving this consumption. So we really tied ourselves to that story. Where at Veritas, you're now in an established organization. So Rubrik, we're building. Veritas, we're transforming. We have this renewal base that we can also look at for a route to market or a co-sell, play around.
Yeah. And the flexibility you had at Rubrik with now contrasting with the kind of enterprise size of Veritas also has to lend a lot, to what Erin said. There's some transformation in there, which I know is probably something that I know we spend a lot of time talking to our ISVs around, is like, this is really a transformative activity. You've done a lot of the right things at Rubrik. You have all those trophies to prove it from a co-sell perspective as well. And then you came into Veritas with a lot of those lessons learned, but moving into a big enterprise. What are some of the things you've done differently to help approach Veritas and really try and fast track some of that transformation? Like, do you have any tips or lessons that you learned reflecting on these two different type of organizations and how you were able to unlock cloud go to market?
Yeah, for sure. So I think one of the things back to understanding the value for your own company at the beginning is to understand, what are we trying to do? Are we really going for new logos, or are we driving ARR lift to our base, our install base? Are we doing both, right? What regions are we going after? You have to have a deep understanding and deep interlock with the different leaders of your company around what is our business imperative? Maybe it is reducing cost of sale, but not growing it up. So there's a variety you get in companies at different phases of maturity, right? And as a with Veritas, one thing that's great about the scale here is that a large percentage of business is renewal. So this is business that's probably going to come in even if no one touches the thing, right? Veritas has a great product, a lot of happy customers, large renewal business. Well, it can roll bigger and can roll faster if you start tapping into the marketplace and co-sell. And so what we found is that our renewal business, our largest renewals happen faster when we can leverage co-sell and leverage the marketplace to get the deal done. That's sort of a unique thing to renewals, where typically the renewal game is almost feels like, a doctor's visit you've been putting off for 3 years or something, right?
You said it right. So you've got this renewal base and they're your customers. They're going to renew. They love Veritas. They're happy. The play isn't to like make sure you renew those customers. The play is, can I bring down my cost of operations, my cost of sales on this book of business? And one of the ways to do that is to do that through the marketplace, because the deals happen faster. They take less of legal's time, and they can be exponentially larger because now you're tapping into a different budget, and a budget that's probably even bigger, so that you could do a multi-year deal and even pull in that revenue sooner than later, right? So now the renewal play is around improving your cost of sales and speeding up that sales cycle.
I mean, there's not a lot of churn, but there's some churn. And so we reduce our churn, we grow our deal size. And so the fit for that renewal business is different than what you do for new business. And so, Patrick, to your question, what's different or what's part of the key is you have to understand, like, hey, this renewal business is a major and unique motion of ARR for the company. And we're going to attach a model that works for them. And then we're going to separately attach a model that works for our new business, folks going after new logo and really growing new software sales, new SaaS sales. So internally at Veritas, we actually have two different co-sell motions where we do different things at different times for the renewal business and the new business. The net, though, is the same, where, hey, we want to get leverage from the cloud sellers and we want to decrease our cost of sale, Erin, to your point, grow our ARR, and ultimately the cherry on top is transacting this thing through the marketplace.
And I think that's smart and that's the right way to go. These are valuable routes to market, but a lot of times we run into ISVs starting out and really trying to get buy-in from the CRO to go take renewals down this path. And you always run into the objections of like, well, we're taking another percentage off renewals. Why would we want to do that? And we've already got a bunch of headcount. And you get into the whole discussion of, well, do we have less renewals folks to take deals through marketplace because they become easier and faster? And it can really open up a big can of worms with a lot of CROs and CEOs in some of the smaller companies. But even at large companies, you're still looking at a big chunk of business that some would argue it's already going through the process. We're not having a lot of competitors in there. Why would I implement something different? When you reflect back on your conversations internally at Rubrik and now at Veritas, how did you ensure strong alignment across the different stakeholders internally? CRO just being one of them, but how did you ensure that you had alignment from everyone to go implement this and really come to the table with, we've got a solid plan. We're going to do these two things differently. Like, what did that look like for you?
It's more of a Veritas story than Rubrik on this one, because Rubrik is really about new logo, new business growth, right? So that was super heavy on that side. And then for the renewal business, well, with Veritas, it's both new and renew together, right? And so getting alignment across, you nailed it. CRO is super, super important, but it's not just the CRO. It's super important to have C-suite and VP level interlock, right? So as a leader, it's my job to go and make sure that, like, I am on path 100% with our CRO's initiative per region, right? And then the same thing with the CMO, right? So as we think about what go-to-market and activities look like, make sure that we're adding value in the right way, see things that really move the needle for CMO and CRO. And then even when you go across the suite to, like, say, product cares about driving product sales and doing it at a lower cost, right? And the product margins at the end of the day, right? For sales. And so the ability for us to impact all three of those things, like ARR growth with the CRO, brand growth and marketing and event ROI with the CMO, and then product margins, right, for the PM team, is super important. You have to have that interlock with the leaders to understand, how their business is going, what they want to do. Because the reality is co-sell and marketplace improves all three of those things. It's going to drive more ARR, right? It's going to do it at a lower cost of sale. We're going to have a great ROI on events we do in marketing. And then from a product margin perspective, our Veritas story is really interesting because, there's a lot of people keeping count of how much money we're making on every deal and the margin on every deal at Veritas, and for good reason, right? It's an established business with, discrete product lines that drive a ton of revenue. And so we did analysis when I was bringing Tackle in initially on the marketplace side for Veritas around cost of sale and EBITDA. And we actually found that compared to Veritas's current route to market, going through the marketplace would actually reduce cost of sale and improve our EBITDA by somewhere between 0.5 point to 1.5 points. Worst case, we're saving 0.5 point. And in many cases, it would actually save us 15 points on a deal, right? So worst case, you're making money. Best case, you're making, 10, 15 points better margin per transaction. And so you have to go through that with finance and through the booking process. You have to get in the weeds of that. So, but having done that, then we can have a very strong conversation. Change is often not good for a business that's doing well, right? At least for leaders that like the machine running as it is. And so you have to add value to their machine, right? And you have to understand deeply the financial impact you're going to have as well. And so I would encourage anyone watching this to go and look at the cost of sale and look at the margin stack, look at the EBITDA, and like really do the math to understand what the net impact of a marketplace transaction is. For Veritas, it turned out to be positive to very positive in many cases.
My former colleagues all just perked up with the EBITDA and the the margin conversation.
Yeah.
I know there was a lot of reporting we had to do. So that's awesome. That's a great story because a lot of companies don't look at it that way. And they're just immediately saying, I have to take 1 to 3% off of all these renewals, and that's going to cut my margins. And they're not considering the advantages and the positives coming in there. So that's a good story.
Yeah, no doubt. This is a conversation I had with CEO, the whole C-suite, leadership teams. And so we anchored this the first 3 months I was at Veritas to look at all the business. And, it's been about 1.5 years since that happened. And now we're in this more scale mode, right? But probably should have mentioned that earlier. It's super important to go and do that early work and anchor both on the business financially, as well as each one of the leaders. So you know what's important for each business leader to win with the cloud too.
And it's not an exercise you do once and you're done, right? You've got to kind of keep this alignment and keep in lockstep with the business. Can you walk us through some like specific things you've been doing over this last 1.5 years to maintain alignment at Veritas?
Yeah, well, there's a change at any company. Change at Rubrik. I think we had 4 CROs in about 4 years there, and that's just one role. The whole org changed considerably, right? And so there's always change in your own company. Now with Veritas, there's been, I would say, less change, but we're actually going through a merger and acquisition as well, which is going to grow us into, by a very long stretch, the market leader in the space. So that's exciting, and that's change ongoing now. And look, there's always internal change. There's also always change with the cloud provider. So we can talk about both sides of that. So staying oriented with the cloud provider as they evolve annually, and then internally, we got to have one-on-ones with each C-suite that matters. And yeah, frankly, I invite them to our party. So I run, say, cloud business meetings and marketplace performance meetings monthly and quarterly, and we bring all the folks to our party, right? And share our challenges, our successes, and ultimately it comes down to smart business planning, where when you become a good business partner with the CMO and the CRO and the various stakeholders, right? Well, then as they think about their priorities, they're thinking about this awesome tool that they didn't have in the past called Cloud Go-to-Market to leverage to grow. And so I'll tell you some specifics for Veritas is that, when we came out of our fiscal year and ARR growth and competitively winning was the job one, right? Well, knowing that, and that's going to inform all the enablement we do and all the route to market we do and all the spend, like it's very easy for me to then attach the cloud go-to-market that we do to help drive a sharper competitive angle on what we do and in attacking the right segment of accounts, right, for growth as well in the right verticals specifically. And so it's just business planning with the company leaders, and then I guess having the ability to very quickly, or sometimes in the moment, attach the couple different levers that you can have in your cloud go-to-market toolkit of, hey, I'm going to go after the, say, healthcare vertical or FinServ vertical or manufacturing vertical, and I'm going to do it when we're at stage 2 to achieve this business outcome that we want. And by the way, because we want to be really sharp on these 2 competitors, We're going to make sure that we are loading up our joint message for that first call with the cloud provider in a very scripted, specific way so that we set the table appropriately when we're going into this segment of accounts in this quarter, like, with these two competitors in mind. So some of this is just sort of sharp internal business planning, but you have to have that maturity of, what you can bring to the table with the cloud provider to really have the strongest impact. It's not a one and done either, right? It's like this happens quarterly. So it's like you got to be in the quarterly business planning. This is a thing that goes on forever, and that's how you win and win bigger.
Right. And I love that mindset that you shared with the audience, which is do the smart business planning, but you are their partner. Like, how can I partner with my CMO? How can I partner with my CRO? And while I'm partnering with them and I'm a tool for them, I'm one of their strategies for them, I too still need to own my business and have my own QBR and keep everybody in the organization apprised of the success we cloud alliances are having and how we're partnering with each of the teams in the organization and the overall success that the cloud alliance is having. I think that's really important. I think sometimes people think about just that one, like, I've got to build this cloud alliance go to market strategy, and you've created it in isolation versus I need to go partner with different teams in my organization. And then I need to show them how I can be part of that strategy, stay part of their strategy. And the way I stay part of their strategy is I'm adding value and I'm communicating and I'm sharing that value that I'm driving with them and for them. I think that that's definitely an aha moment in hearing you tell the story to, like, really crystallize that point.
The other thing that I think might be notable for some of your audiences is that at Veritas, I have three different teams I run, and we do it intentionally because it helps add more value to the company. And one is actually a marketplace biz ops team, which is, hey, the team that actually makes the marketplace listings go, partners with Tackle very closely. Things about how we book orders, things about how we do like rep comp, how deals get done and quotes get done. Like a marketplace sort of operations team is one thing. And that's really providing a service to the business around doing deals, right?
And is co-sell in there too? Is it like marketplace and co-sell operations?
Separate, actually. Yeah. So, because this is more internal focused on, like, we have to make a center of excellence for us as a company transacting through marketplace, like a first class citizen or riding first class on an airplane, right? This is not a sidecar to the route to market. This is central to how we're going to grow our business. And so there's a lot of things that have to happen with that. How do we do quotes? How do we book orders? And a company with Veritas with many different product lines, how do you quotes? It's not as simple. There's no simple answer to that. There's probably 5 different answers. And so, hey, how do we create a center of excellence around how we do quotes and how we book orders and how we do enablement for it? There's a job in itself of, like, making marketplace a real thing, right, for a company. That's one. And then a separate team that does alliances. And this is the team that does focus on, hey, am I on all the right programs with Amazon, with Microsoft, with Google, right? Am I checking all the boxes and all the funding we can get? And are we doing all the things to engage with the right leaders at the right time? And are we actually doing co-sell and locking in this scale co-sell model effectively right across the company? So that's the core alliances team. And they really do end to end. Like, are we talking to the right product teams too? So there's sort of like a little bit of a DM hat that the alliances team functions on for the business. And then the third one is really the go-to-market team. And that's the part where once you get lock in for scale, that's where you can really have the most tangible impact, because the go-to-market team is the one that actually drives, the deal connections, deeply gets in the weeds on co-sell, drives all the sales rigor around connecting on deals, winning on deals, driving sales strategy, driving the marketplace sales number, right? So you could sort of imagine I would goal the teams differently on different pieces of the business, but having those discrete lines of business has been really helpful at Veritas because it's let us go create excellence for marketplace as a function inside the company that matters and works at the end of the day. Because if your SLA sucks on marketplace, no one's going to want to eat that meal from a sales perspective. And then have an excellence on alliances to go and be world class in every possible way with all the cloud providers. And then have a team focused on the actual go to market to drive co-sell and marketplace wins and really have that ARR growth impact that ISVs and established companies all want to get.
You've established the dream of so many Cloud Alliance people.
At what point do I start creating these 3 teams? Is it like you create these 3 teams out of the gate and they're just like one person? And then, like, as you kind of grow your business and drive adoption and scale adoption, you just keep adding more people into those teams? Or, like, did you start with one team and then build out the next team and then build out the next team depending on the growth that you were seeing?
It's alliances first, marketplace second, and then the go-to-market third, right? If you don't have this strong alliances foundation to be on all the programs and doing the important partner work, that's your anchoring on regality and partnership strength, right? So you got to have that as your growth engine. And then once you get that going, as long as the companies wants to grow ARR and do it at a lower cost of sale and get new logos, well, it probably makes sense to click on this marketplace function. Some companies may already have marketplace running. I have it on my team because it's so central to how we go win as a company. And you could have marketplace running on some other biz ops team or something, right? But more important than where it reports is like the function that it serves and that it's effective, right? So, but alliance is first for sure. You got the marketplace function going, and then with success and with sort of a product market fit and scale and strategy lock in that we've talked about earlier on this session. Well, if you're ready to go, it definitely you got to bring some talent in to then scale the go to market side and win. And I would say that's probably the most important piece to get right, because you got to have the right personality that's both very aggressive but also a very strong like partner centric person. You know, someone with patience to knock on the door 5 to 7 times and get 5 to 7 no's, but also someone that can go talk to leadership teams and set the vision and tell them what good looks like, right? So it takes a dynamic leader to be some of the early leaders on the go to market side to both do the hard work and do all the heavy lifting, and then also set the vision and set the leadership alignment along with myself.
Well, I love this conversation. And as we're coming to an end of our time, I want to leave the audience with some advice, or tell us, like, what big bets are you continuing to invest in order to continue unlocking your cloud go to market strategy and your cloud partnerships?
It's more of a long-term thinking strategy, right? We try and be very like long-term oriented in our decision making and the bets that we do make, knowing that you do have to knock on the door 7 times to get it to go. And when you're a company the size of Veritas, this is a bit turning the Titanic and then putting a better engine on it so it goes faster. Like, those things are all great, but they don't happen overnight, and they also don't go away overnight. So long-term thinking is a big one, right? And it's both for internal company evolution as well as staying aligned to the cloud partners, because the reality is Amazon changes their marketplace and co-sell policies at least every year. Microsoft does as well. Microsoft sometimes gets interesting and does things twice a year, or just, incrementally throughout the year changes. And so one thing that's super, super important to maintain success over time is have this mindset that is in some ways infinite. Erin, I know you said infinite mindset, but for me, it's like it's long-term thinking and knowing that the art of winning isn't around listening to what we talked about on this and then going and copying that. It's staying very attuned to how the cloud companies are evolving their own route to market, how they're copying their sellers, right? What their programs look like, and how you ultimately can help them be successful yourself. And then also, bi-directionally, how that relationship can be symbiotic to help your sellers increase value in our deals. If you stay anchored on that being the North Star, then, as Veritas and our merger, it goes through, like, we're going to have incredible success internally. And we're also going to stay laser locked in with both Amazon and Microsoft and Google right in their programs. And I would say, like, partnering with Tackle probably shouldn't skip saying that either, because one of the value that you guys have is both on co-sell as well as on marketplace. There's no one that's more tapped into the changing landscape of cloud go-to-market, and whether it's marketplace, co-sell, right? Just in general, right? You guys are super tapped in there. It's the Tackle thing, it's the cloud thing, and then it's all your own internal stakeholders. You just got to stay like locked into evolution and growth as a mindset.
Yeah, we help you guys stay on top of all those changes. And we also provide that, like, consistency. Like, we are there as your cloud go to market platform. And as the organization expands and extracts and merges and acquisitions happen and things change, people change inside the organization. The one thing that is constant and consistent is Tackle's here as your partner and your cloud go to market operations platform, so that that can stay consistent. As the people come in and out of the organization, your operations can stay on and stay consistent throughout your journey.
I couldn't be more excited to be partnering with Tackle and with the cloud providers the next, say, 12, 24 months, because marketplace is as big as it is. In some ways, it's just getting started. And you look at the like 600, 700, 800 billion dollars of committed money that's going to be spent the next couple of years. It's sizable and it's accelerating, right? So there's such a growing opportunity for ISVs broadly to think about evolving their business. And, for Tackle too, there's a huge opportunity to keep winning and playing the game better than others out there. We really appreciate the partnership.
And we're excited to do it with you. So thank you for your partnership and leaning on us and allowing us to kind of be there to help you in your journey. I so appreciate your time, Shane. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us and with our audience. So many things to learn from your experiences.
My pleasure, Erin. Great to talk with you and you as well, Patrick.
Awesome. Thanks, Shane. Head of Global Cloud, Go-to-Market, Business Development, and Alliances at Veritas. This was an episode of Unlock Cloud Go-to-Market. I'm your co-host, Patrick Riley.
I'm your co-host, Erin Feiger.
And thanks for joining. Erin, I love that episode. I'm so glad you brought Shane on. That was such a great addition to this podcast. And you've known him for such a long time. And you both have money trees, which I'm jealous because I've got this fake little tree from Amazon in the background. And I need to be as cool as the both of you.
Yeah, and I'm glad I learned that money trees are hardy because I do not have a green thumb and I'm so nervous. I feel like it's bad juju if I let this money tree die. All right, so besides the fact that Shane and I both have money trees, what was an aha moment that you had in listening to Shane's story?
Yeah, for me, there was a couple big ahas, but the two that I loved, the biggest takeaways were that he had the three teams. He's got the dream team. He's got the dream job for an alliances person in cloud go-to-market, right? With the biz ops team focused on all the rev rec, the quote to cash process, managing the business, the alliances team driving kind of the overlay, if you will, working the partnerships, and then the go-to-market team, who I think is more like that sales oriented. For me, the big aha was someone nailed it and they did it the right way there. And the other big one for me was the renewals, that conversation and how they're looking at using renewals as another route to market. And they got that buy-in. Those were two very exciting things for me.
And he took the time in the beginning to really understand the business, how he could align inside the business, and then went and did the financial exercise of truly the benefit that cloud go-to-market could have inside of the organization, given their company, given the way they're going to market, given their customer base and their products, right? And because he took that time, now he's going fast, right? It's like you got to go slow to go fast. And he really understood the financial impact. And when he knew the financial impact, then going and getting those stakeholders and starting to build those three teams was easy buy-in, no brainer. Go invest in that because we've done this financial model that tells us our EBITDA is going to be better, our time to sale is going to be better, we're going to decrease our cost of sales, we're going to potentially increase our renewal rates and decrease our churn. All those financials he did up front in the beginning before he even started building out the team.
Yeah, it's really a great blueprint for success. All the things you mentioned, the importance of the consumption stories, building out the right people and support internally, figuring out how they're then going to go scale, looking at it through a transformation lens, all of it. And then his mindset to be adaptable to the cloud providers and get everybody else on board to do that. That was pretty cool.
You've got to hire people who also have that same growth mindset, know that this is an infinite game that you are going to be in. And so you got to just keep going and keep at it. And it's not like you do this exercise once or you say this once, you do this enablement once. It's okay, we got to always do this and we got to say it over and over again. And we just got to keep working at it. And we're going to keep making minor tweaks and keep evolving it. And until the day we decide all right, this isn't a route to market anymore for us, right?
Get on the flywheel. Stay tuned. If you haven't watched previous episodes, go back and watch those. Each week, we're going to bring you a new episode with new keys, new successes, new aha moments, and maybe a money tree for me. Thank you for watching this week's Unlock Cloud Go-to-Market. I am your co-host, Patrick Riley.
And I'm your co-host, Erin Feiger.
See you next time.
So pull up a chair, grab a notebook, and join us as we share the essential stages of the maturity model to start, optimize, and grow your company's revenue using the cloud. For more resources on executing your cloud go-to-market strategy, you can visit our website at tackle.io.